The perfect boss fights are the ones you lose. Hear me out on this one. Bosses are a dime a dozen, and although some bosses are universally acclaimed as incredible must-fight battles, what actually makes for a perfect boss fight? Sure, you could say it's the graphics, the mechanics, the design. I mean, it really is a loaded question, I know. All of those attributes are important in their own way, but I would like to offer you two ways that I don't see many people talk about on how some bosses can really stand out and make that lasting impact on a gamer's career. I think both are equally valid, and yes, they both involve losing. Also, light spoiler alert for these games that are appearing on screen right now. It shouldn't be an issue. These are old games, but just in case, you never know. Have you ever been playing a game and noticed the boss's HP just isn't going down? Or you're a brand new player and the very first boss is so overwhelming that it might as well just be a brick wall? You lose the fight. Badly, but the story goes on nonetheless. It's as if you didn't just get your grits scrambled and served to you with a side of toast. I mean, you did, but that's okay, because these are boss fights that you are meant to lose. There's a lot of variations on this type of encounter. Usually they almost always show up at some story-heavy moment, usually at the very start of the game. Our hero sets out on their journey, full of determination, and immediately gets smacked down. Or the protagonist reaches some mid-game twist, rendering all the previous experience useless. It's a fantastic way to make an instant narrative and psychological impact. In some encounters, the power gap between you and your antagonist is meant to feel enormous. The game is in control, not you. Or maybe the encounter is heavily scripted in the narrative and you, the player, feel just as helpless as your character feels. What makes these encounters so effective is the motivation they create. Every skill, every item you pick up, every new shiny piece of gear you find, it's all leading up to that one moment when you finally get that sweet revenge on that jerk who beat you at the beginning or at the mid-game twist. So when you do face them again, it's not just you facing another boss, it's you settling a score, and that payoff is huge. I think one of the best examples of this is Flowey in Undertale. It's a quick fight that's extremely scripted right at the beginning of the game. Some may question if it's even a fight at all, but it very quickly teaches you some of the basic aspects of the battle system in a very Flowey way. I mean, Flowey himself as a character sets the tone for your whole Undertale experience. He makes a significant impression with your limited interaction in the tutorial area. So when he suddenly shows up as the surprise endgame boss, it's a welcome challenge. Genichiro from Sekiro and the Vanguard Demon from Demon Souls are also great examples, but they function a little differently. Unlike Flowey's encounter, these are real fights. Technically, these two are beatable on your first try, but unless you're some kind of Soulsborne deity, you're probably going down, and that's the point. They frame the journey ahead. These are both FromSoft games, so one of the purposes of these bosses is to say, this is what you signed up for, but they also give you a base measure of your own ability at the beginning. Later on, when you've progressed through the game, picking up new skills and items, you fight them again. But this time, you're going in with some newfound confidence and a taste for revenge. Who's getting their grits scrambled now, Genichiro? Oh, there's a phase 2. Mind you, this is different from super bosses, which often exist purely as optional endgame challenges for players to seek extra bragging rights. But sometimes they still can fit this type of narrative story-driven defeat. Yozora from Kingdom Hearts 3 is an odd hybrid. The first time you fight him, you're probably gonna lose and get a unique story ending, one that might be setting up for Kingdom Hearts 4 if we ever get that game. Or you can actually take on the extreme challenge of actually winning for an alternative ending. But since he appears at the end of the game, he's not shaping the tone of the journey in the way that an early you lose fight does. One more unique example I love is Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX. You're meant to lose, but not too fast. To pass, you have to survive 10 turns, which is asking a lot at this point in the game for new players who don't know what they're in for, especially since you don't even realize that the real goal is survival, not victory. After a few party wipes, your mindset naturally shifts from dishing out damage to clinging on for dear life. The fight itself takes place in the middle of war-torn Burmecia with some pretty serious story beats, so you can definitely feel the hopelessness in the fight. And the game doubles down on this. You fight Beatrix 3 times and you never actually win. Instead, the arc resolves when she switches sides and becomes an ally. The payoff isn't landing the final blow, but by seeing her growth and redemption. It's a great example of how a you lose boss can still deliver a huge narrative impact, even when the victory, so to speak, comes through the delivery. even when the victory comes through the delivery of the story. I could go on with more examples. RPGs in particular are chock full of these. They're just ripe for storytelling and just creating that sense of an unbeatable boss or like an antagonist that like, ooh, I'm gonna get you. And actually some of the games that I've played in the past year have amazing moments with bosses like this. But some of you may be saying, hold on, some of these examples aren't really boss fights. They're just story moments dressed up to look like boss fights. Fair point. So maybe you'll accept my other aspect on what potentially makes a perfect boss. Ones that perfectly match the player's skill. Now this is the more traditional approach. The boss is tough enough to push you to your limits, but not so frustrating that you throw the controller across the room. It's the sweet spot where when you finally win, you feel like you've earned it. I know I'm making it sound simplistic, and it seems obvious, because that's what a boss fight should do, but it really is a delicate balance. Too hard or too long, and the player burns out. Too easy, and it's just, oh look, another giant eyeball monster. I wonder where the weak spot is. Oh, it's already dead. I'm looking at you, half the Zelda series. The best bosses meet the player exactly where they are. For 8-year-old me, Super Mario 64's Bowser was a perfect challenge. For 33-year-old me, the weapons refrain in Final Fantasy XIV hits that same nerve. It really just depends on the game and the gamer. It's a little cheesy and it may sound like a cop-out, but in this way, the perfect boss is the one that's perfect for you. I will say that Soulsborne games are practically built on this idea. You fight, you die, you learn, you improve both your stats and your own skills until you're finally able to match the boss blow for blow right at that perfect skill level. Elden Ring actually takes this even further. If you hit a wall against a boss that's way out of your league, you have some options. You can grind it out in the classic Soulsborne style, which is basically throw your face against a wall until you win, or you can walk away and tackle one of the many mini-bosses better suited to your current skill level. Just go exploring in the map. Those smaller victories act as stepping stones, helping you grow until you're ready for the big one. And that choice, whether to fight now or later, is part of what makes the challenge feel so satisfying. In my eyes, the perfect boss is memorable in some way, and oftentimes the bosses that we lose to often stick with us. I get that looking at bosses this way isn't the most flashiest take. Everybody wants to be a winner, and ultimately that is the goal, because maybe the perfect boss fight is the one where you're the loser. Because whether it's that story-driven moment, or it's that boss that pushes you towards that eventual victory, losing makes that experience all the more worthwhile. I keep bringing up Soulsborne examples, but I can't help it. Look at Millennia and Concert Redon. Crazy hard boss fights that even the most seasoned Souls players will die to. A lot. Probably more so than any other boss in the genre. But people love them. Probably because people lose to them. Until they don't. Now, of course, all of this is extraordinarily subjective, and quite frankly, I think it's impossible for us to find the most perfect-est boss. That's not a word. But what makes a perfect boss fight to you? Do you agree with me at all, or am I just full of it? But really, the most perfect boss is the first shadow fight from Sonic Adventure 2, and that's non-negotiable. If you disagree, you're wrong. Bye!
I'll make you eat those words!